The 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is an annual international campaign that runs from the 25th of November to 10th of December. It is worthy of note that activists at the inaugural Women's Global Leadership Institute started the movement in 1991, 29 years ago. The campaign is still very much in existence and has continued every year since then. 10th June 2020, the Nigerian Governors Wives Against Gender-Based Violence influenced a state of emergency by the Nigerian Governors Forum, of which some of its members have been able to influence the passage of relevant laws to protect women and children in their respective states and in states where laws are in place. They are actively involved in implementation strategies. In light of the ongoing 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, on the 2nd of December 2020, the First Ladies of the 36 states in Nigeria converged at Transcorp Hilton, Abuja, for the first annual conference to discuss the activities so far and the activities for the future on actions against gender-based violence.
Nigerian Governors Wives Against Gender-Based Violence is a group of 25 governors' wives from all zones of the country, working together to mitigate all forms of gender-based violence. Since we began to work together on GBV issues in June 2020, we have achieved the following: advocacy with the Nigerian Governors Forum, our husbands, to support calls for the declaration of a state of emergency against sexual and gender-based violence in Nigeria. On the 10th of June, the Nigerian Governors Forum declared a state of emergency against GBV. As a result of this declaration, all state governors are now focused on urgent actions in their states to address GBV. This includes ensuring that relevant legislation is passed and that there is implementation of existing laws and policies. We have also developed an action plan as State First Ladies, which we are presenting to the public today, and it is in the compendium you have on your tables. Each First Lady is adapting this action plan to suit her own context and environment. The action plan covers strategies such as access to justice, support for survivors, education and awareness, engaging communities, peer learning, and partnerships with various stakeholders. We have also scaled up advocacy efforts for the immediate domestication of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015 and the Child Rights Act. I'm pleased to inform you, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that since June 2020, when the state of emergency was declared, 6 additional states had domesticated the VAP Act: Delta, Bauchi, Akwa Ibom, Kwara, Abia, and Niger states.
I'm highly delighted to be part of today's epoch-making event of the gender-based violence policy dialogue with excellencies, governors, and their spouses. Your Excellencies, this event coincides with the commemoration of the 2020 16 Days Activism on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, with the theme Orange the Wall: Fund, Respond, Prevent, and Collect. The theme should be seen as a collective call to redefine our roles in ending gender-based violence in Nigeria. Let me again use this opportunity to thank Your Excellencies for the proactiveness in declaring a state of emergency in your respective states in the wake of the epidemic of gender-based violence that engulfed our country, especially during the COVID-19. We are now facing a pandemic within a pandemic. It is clear that beside every successful man, every successful governor, to be specific, is a very good wife and a supportive wife. I therefore dare to say I appreciate all of you, our First Ladies, for being very supportive and standing side by side with your husbands to make a difference.
The first ladies were supported by governors of Ekiti, Ondo, Kogi, Plateau, and Niger states, whom were actively involved in panel discussions. Discussions were centered around assessment of the activities of the Nigerian Governors Wives against gender-based violence so far. Signs of gender-based violence people should watch out for. How to support survivors of gender-based violence.
There is a direct correlation between poverty and sexual violence. And if we do not empower women, it's not enough to keep talking about these things. If we do not empower women to be able to stand on their own and protect themselves and have the resources available to take care of themselves, it becomes a much more debilitating and enduring challenge that will take us a longer time to fix. So for us, we've drawn the correlation. We have a survivors fund in our state that we make available to those who are coming out of sexual violence, gender-based violence experiences. We also have schemes in the state to support them to acquire skills and become more independent on their own, and resources that would improve their knowledge and understanding and ensure that they stay in schools. Because another major problem here is our female dropout rate is very high, and we're determined to do something about that by ensuring that even if you become pregnant in the course of going to school, the opportunity to gain an education is not totally shut out from you. We have a slew of these 5 interventions.
Absolutely.
In the state. Well, it's still not enough. We have to make sure that we do it across the board. And my brother governors are also coming into the picture. We're all seriously determined to make this an experience of the past in our country.
We have laws, we have legislation, we have policies and programs for women. But we must give them that self-dignity. That is number 1, my ADC. Number 2, so today, women have that confidence that, we can actually do this. And she's doing it excellently well. Now, my SSG and my head of service from first term to second term are women. They are collaborating with my wives in ensuring that women are given their right place in the society. We didn't just stop at that. Governance starts from the grassroots. Whatever policy and programs we have today, it must be executed to the grassroots. And we are operating 3 tiers of government. That is at the federal level, the state level, and at local government level. We are going to conduct local government and councillorship election on 12th December this year. And as a matter of policy and practicalizing what we preach, APC as a party in Kogi State made it a policy. I am the leader of the party in the state. I ensure that the party ensure that the 35% affirmation is practicalized for Nigerians to see. And how are we going to practicalize it? We ensure that in every local government with 10 wards, or 14 or 15 wards, there is at least minimum of 3 to 4 women as councillors.
Amazing.
Having a law in place must solve everything. And what you need really is how, at the end of the day, you have put in place machinery to ensure enforcement of the law and to make sure that at the end of the day, where you have people who have been found guilty of any of the offenses under the law, that they are prosecuted and brought to book and that they face the wrath or the full weight of the law itself. That is what is important. And in getting this done, we have had problems, just as we had in a number of, virtually all the states. You see, we have, for instance, issue of congestion, a lot of congestion in courts. And this has led to having to create family courts, different courts, to attend to matters of this nature, particularly gender-based violence. So that when you have prosecution of offenders who come under this, who have committed offenses under the laws that are in place, you don't have to take them through the process, the existing process which you have now in place, which normally and at the end of the day takes time.
We have made a lot of arrests in these cases. We've had probably 78 or 9 convictions. But for me, you can have the laws, you can have the referral centers, but once you start getting yourself in a situation where you use the law or the referral center, it means it has already happened, and you don't want it to happen. For me, I think sensitization, education are key in this fight. Thank you.
In Plateau State, I was the second person to pass and domesticate the child rights law in the north. So I was the first. And when I did that, unfortunately, I was left as a speaker. And there was no proper implementation. But when I came back as a governor, I now went back to again implementing it. Now there's also an aspect that I've just introduced, the girl child education. I'm always very fascinated when I see women excelling. And I made it a point of duty from last year. I said any woman that excels academically in Plateau State, she will get an award, not only an award. If it's within the secondary school, I give her a scholarship to go abroad.
Excellent job.
This year, I just celebrated, a few weeks ago, I celebrated a girl from my state that emerged the overall best in WAEC in Nigeria. So I will take her and hand over to the chairperson of the Governors Wives, so that you can know that women can do better than men.
My name is Osasu, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of TOS TV Network, the Pan-African Television Network. I would like to put all Your Excellencies on the spot today to ask you to make a categorical commitment to furthering women and girls' development in your state. Your Excellency, the Governor of Kogi State, you said all vice chairmen coming up in the local government elections will be women. We applaud you for that. Thank you so much. I want the Governor of Ondo State, Plateau State, Ekiti State, and Niger State to make similar commitment to the advancement of women's political participation and leadership. Thank you so much.
In relation to women's participation and Osasu's request for commitment, I think there is generally a question of power relations. And there are patriarchal privileges. Nobody runs away from privileges. And in politics, one thing we say oftentimes is that power is not served a la carte. The person who has power does not voluntarily give away power. You have to devise means, you have to build coalitions, you have to organize strategies in order to take power from those who have power. And part of that coalition would necessarily involve men. You can't attack men and expect them to get involved when you want positions, either by appointment or by election. So, and women are nurturers. Women know how to multitask. Women know how to engage and build coalitions. So I don't really see this as a necessarily difficult thing for women. But we must also, on our part, as privileged actors, figure out institutional mechanisms that can assist in ensuring that we have more women participating in political life. There's no if, there's no but. We must encourage, we must actively involve, and we must build coalitions with women to do this.
I want to talk about one of the problems we have in dealing with gender-based violence. The problem is that half of the way in handling these cases, people will come from the village or people that are concerned and tell us that they have settled after we have done everything in the court to make sure that they are prosecuted. You find out that they renege and the people are placed in a quagmire. They don't know what to do. And we need a legislation that even when the birth parents of those people abused have reneged on the agreement, government has to send somebody to stand for the victim.
You see, in every state, this will apply to each and every one of us. There are peculiarities. What is obtainable in Kogi State might not be obtainable in any other state. It might be easy for me to ensure that women are elected into elective offices in Kogi State. It might not be that very easy for other state governors to implement same in their various states. So obtaining commitment to that effect will amount to obtaining no commitment at all. But I want to assure you that nobody under my leadership or under my watch will commit offense against women and I'll allow that person to go scot-free. It's as good as any of us here now moving out and saying, for instance, Osasu committed so offense. I am not there, you are not there. And then we'll immediately, apprehend Osasu and begin to punish before the completion or conclusion of investigation and proper prosecution by the competent court of law. Everybody knows me, please just one moment, knows Kogi State Governor to be an action governor. I take no nonsense at all from anybody.
My name is Honorable Dr. Hajara Danyaro Ibrahim, Special Advisor to the Governor of Nasau State on Special Education, on the entourage of Her Excellency Hajia Salifat Abdullah Yusli. I want to commend the efforts of all the governors, especially my maternal governor, Kogi State, for this wonderful achievement on women. Please, Your Excellency, kindly help us to reach down this achievement to Nasau State. I've been contesting 3 times for the State House of Assembly. You can see Nasau State, not a single woman in the House of Assembly of Nasau State, not a single woman as chairman or deputy chairman.
In most cases, when women contest elections, you don't see majority of women supporting them. That is a fact. That is a fact. You don't see the women supporting them. I don't know why it is like that. But however, I want to help my sister, Dr. Hajara. She has been contesting the election. I only want to say that as chairman of Governors Forum, we will take that up. The governor of Nasarawa is my good friend. And I wanted to tell her one secret. In Plateau State, nobody has ever produced a senator in Plateau. And it has become like a tradition that no woman will become senator. But I want to assure you, we're into an election. By Saturday, they are going to elect the first woman senator from Plateau State.
Also in attendance were survivors of rape and gender-based violence, who shared their experiences centered around support, rehabilitation, and reintegration into society.
I had to write my story in this book for people to understand what sexually abused girls and boys go through in Nigeria. It has been long for so many years. I was raped before the age of 5 till I was 14 by someone I thought was my dad. I grew up with someone I thought was my dad, but at the age of 14, my mother found out that I was not a virgin, That was when it was unveiled to me, or unveiled to her, that I was being raped by her husband. That was when she told me that he was not my dad. He caused so much enmity between me and my mother, whereby I cannot tell my mother what I was going through. My mother hated me. So many times I have scars that I still have on my body that was inflicted on me by my mother. Sometimes she would cut my vagina and put pepper, she would break my head. And when her husband started raping me, when I started fighting back, he would lie to her that I saw her kissing a boy when she asked him why he beat me. And she would believe him. She would beat me, she would cut my vagina, put pepper, and she hated me. I live in that pain. So many times I tried to commit suicide. I became an alcoholic. I find comfort in club. I drop out of school. And I just want to die. Because when my mother found out about the abuse, he started raping me before my mother started having children for him. And when my mother found out about my rape issue, I was still in the house. But later she moved me out of the house because the man hated me so much. And 2 years after my mother died, he said he wanted to marry me. And the abuse started all over again because I have to leave my uncle's house back to the house to take care of my younger ones. And he said to me, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to kill you the way I kill your mother. And he started raping me all over again. Then I find comfort in alcohol. I find comfort in club, smoke. I was tired. I wanted to commit suicide. Later, I was rescued. 2016, an American professor heard my story in the U.S., who told me to write a book. I never wanted to write my story because being a rape victim has cost me 2 engagements, whereby they dumped me because they don't want to be with me. They feel I'm a cursed child. I seduce my mother, husband, there's something wrong with me.
A lot of times, it is our parents that cause this problem. We have ongoing battles with women that says, I don't want my problem, I don't want disgrace, I don't want scandal in my home. So please, let us just cover this thing quietly. A lot of women know that their husbands are raping their daughters, their own biological daughters. But they don't want to do anything about it because they don't want scandal, they don't want anybody to know that things like that are happening in their homes. In my state, in fact, in my town, a young girl, was being abused by her father. And she thought it was just something that was normal until she started talking to her friends. You know, when they are talking, discussing all this type of intimate things, she discussed intimate things without telling them who is the perpetrator, until she met a boy that wanted to marry her. And he asked her whether she has had sexual intercourse before. And she said yes. And he said, who? Said, my father.
One of the major problems that we have with rape cases and abuse cases is that the way in which evidence is handled. Now, one of the speakers earlier on had said about the fact that if a person has been raped, that it is an offense against the state. So whether the parents want to say, I don't want to report it or not, it doesn't matter. But the problem is that because the cases are not reported properly, sometimes the only evidence you get is the evidence given by the victim themselves. You don't have the solid evidence to convict a person because the chain of evidence collection and so on has been broken because that system of knowing how to collect that evidence is not there. So even if somebody says, I've been raped, happens to go to the police, but the evidence that is required to convict that person is not there, that person can go scot-free. And a person who has experienced that will not want to go back and get exposed to that again. So there are very complicated issues around this subject. Exactly. So each and every one has to be put into context and put in a system that allows it to be addressed holistically and properly.
It was indeed a successful event. Gender-based violence is a reality many women and girls have to deal with in different forms on a daily basis. We must join hands to bring this to an end.